The majority of people's idea of consumption involves the purchase of goods and services in a typical retail setting, like a mall. And although they are not wrong, retail consumption is just one facet of consumption. After discussing which consumption experience we were going to follow, we found we wanted to look into consumer behaviour in a retail setting to observe what we had learned in class firsthand. But also to consider the ways other types of consumption are different, we decided to compare the two in terms of which provides the most satisfaction and therefore happiness. The instant gratification that comes from impulse decisions we make at malls is addictive. Marketers use their knowledge of consumer behaviour to capitalise on these addictions and impulses. Once the consumer is in the mall, retail outlets try to persuade the consumer into shopping to look at their products. They do this through the use of in-store displays, as well as other influences, like the music that plays, lighting, and temperature. Once in store, the sales staff have a chance to pitch their products. The ultimate goal of this, from a retailer's point of view, is to convince the consumer to exchange his or her money for the product. This job is made far easier from the retailer's advantage in knowledge. Therefore, retailers have their critics in terms of ethics. In 21st century New Zealand, we live in an almost cashless society. Payments are made without the need to worry about what currency you have on you and what change you will receive. This makes the challenge of convincing the consumer to part ways with their money a little easier. The period between the consumer wanting the product and having the product is shortened. All he or she has to do is pull a piece of plastic out of their wallet and punch in a 4-digit PIN. Once PayWave becomes as widespread as EFTPOS, all transactions will become almost instantaneous. In a mall, however, that doesn't mean the experience is over. Instead, we just come out of one store and begin our search for another. Compare this to the more old school style of retail, the department store. And these days, the first thing you will notice is the significantly lower number of consumers actually in the store. They have become more about decreasing the range of products they offer and increasing the holdings of things like consumer electronics and furniture. These days, malls fill the space and most consumers' evoked set of retail outlet choices, and department stores like this have been left to pick up the scraps in the retail market. Going out on a Saturday night or to a restaurant with friends involves more social aspects of consumption. Instead of receiving tangible assets like we would in a retail setting, we receive memories and entertainment. We are still consuming, and more importantly, passing with our hard-earned cash, but in return we receive a service. We catch up with some friends and on the odd occasion, potentially have one drink too many. This makes it extra hard to get up for work team building exercises in the morning. Or cricket. Playing sports in the weekend is also consumption. The consumer pays a fee to belong to a club, and in return they receive a team to play for and the gear needed to engage in the sport. The social, physical, and overall benefits from these types of consumption generally result in a higher level of satisfaction and happiness than from a tangible product you would consume in a retail setting. Retail shopping can be addictive, and you often hear people describe it as therapeutic. Boosted by our perception that we are shortening the gap between our actual and desired states, we make impulse purchases, sometimes without even knowing why. It is important for consumers, like you and me, to understand the concept of consumption, as we participate either knowingly or unknowingly in these markets almost every day. Just simply going into the mall or department store is not the issue, because we often need the goods we go into the mall for. It's the lack of understanding of consumer behaviour and how we make decisions which gets us into trouble, and almost always leads to people leaving the mall or supermarket or department store with goods they did not come in for, and often don't even need.